Good evening, Professor Kancha Ilaiah. I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Geetha.
I'm Geetha Ramaswamy. I work with the Hyderabad Book Trust and Southside Books. Southside Book has just published Kancha Ilaiah's The Shudra Rebellion. This is the third print of the book, which has been released barely 6 months ago, and the book is doing extremely well. And today we will be talking with Professor Ilaiah. We will start with the raging controversy around the cuts in the Fule film, which seem so atrocious, but doesn't seem to be drawing so much of a reaction.
Well, it doesn't draw reaction in the normal quarters of film industry, but there is lot of reaction from OBC groups, Dalit groups, social media. Massive reaction is going on, and once the film is released, certainly there will be a response. But what is important is that the Central Board of Film Certification responded to a Shudra 19th century uh, reformer wife and husband as if they were responding to Aurangzeb. You know, uh, now why that response? And even the Brahmin groups who protested were not major groups. One person wrote some letter, some Anandavi, and then two, three organizations raised concern. But quickly, the CBFC responded asking for cuttings of words like, Mahar and Mang, Peshwai, removing scenes like. See, this is the first great Shudra writer. In fact, even this book is a sequel to what Pule has written as Gulamgiri in 19th century. And as follow-up, Ambedkar has written as who are the Shudras and how they came to be the fourth Varna in the Vedic order. So the Shudras themselves are not in any one of these fields. That is the problem. If somebody sent me the list of CBFC. All of them are either Brahmins or Kshatriyas or Banyas. Now, this is a very, very serious issue. Such a big number of people, whether it is Maharashtra Marathas or Gujarat Patels, UP Jats, Telangana Andhra Pradesh Reddy Kammas or Nayars. So the BJP government also put only Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas in the CBFC, and they never understood the importance of Shudra history. Now, even this book could have done much better because if only Reddys, Kammas, Jats, Patels, Marathas were to engage themselves with reading of history of their own in ancient, in medieval times, in modern times. Now, Ambedkar has become massive now because of Dalit ownership of him, Buddhists, and also the higher intellectual, modern intellectual stature, and that he wrote the constitution is a major factor. But what is important is the same BJP government headed by a Brahmin passed a resolution in the assembly unanimously, that too on March 24th, that they should be, wife and husband should be given Bharat Ratna, and that too for the first time for 19th century reformers. And even then, the film board does not understand the importance of a Shudra reformer who wanted to change the very basic structure of education having educated his own wife and adopted a Brahmin boy born to a widow, and then established truth-seeking society. No, even then, this is the kind of casteism we have even in the intellectual domain. That surprises me.
So, how do you compare that with, say, a situation in the two Telugu states, where largely it is the Shudra castes which are dominating both in terms of acting talent and in production?
Yes, they see even Reddis, Kammas, Kapus, down to Yadavs and artisanal communities. The Shudra layer goes down to barbers and washing communities. But then there is no intellectual, philosophical, reformist thinking among them. Now, if you look at the dominant caste like Reddis, Kammas, here, even in Maharashtra and Western India, even in the North India, thereafter, education means doctor or engineer to earn more money. Then, along with agriculture, they do real estate. But somehow, their place in the same Hindu Sanskrit text is almost zero. Nowhere Shudras are shown in the books.
So, in a sense, you are arguing that there has been a deliberate suppression of Shudra heritage and identity all through history.
It is both. See, they got into Brahmanism as a ritual practice, and they invite Brahmin priests, and then they go to temples, donate money to temple construction, but they don't give money to establish good schools on humanitarian level. They may run private schools in both the Telugu states, even in Maharashtra and in Gujarat as well. But that is only to make money. Now I am surprised that after Pule, you don't find a Shudra philosopher, a thinker, a person who thinks about the social chain, the man woman relationship and system. A man who educated his own wife starting from her ninth year as a child marriage, and then made her a teacher, faced all the horrendous atrocities, brutal violence, and kept himself cool in the process and remained non-violent after Buddha. And having such a philosophical background of Pule, even Maharashtrian Marathas, Dhangas, and other Kumbis have not shown philosophical enthusiasm, educational enthusiasm, entering into spiritual. See, Pule has written a book for religious change also. So, and he did the first research in the field on farmers, on labor. Unlike Ambedkar, his entire writing, whether it is Gulamgiri or even the farmer's whip card,
Cultivators whip card.
cultivators whip card, and then the entire effort that he put around improving the farmers' lot and negotiating with the British government was to change the relationship between Shetji Bodji, the Brahmin and Baniya, and the Shudras and Ati Shudras. Now, all these names today, which film board is talking about, were used in that society. Pule used, in fact, more sophisticated way, though in a colloquial way. So these things are now getting more reactionary in terms of the most educated people. Because one problem in our society is, see, my parents or your parents, you yourself have written about your own Brahmin parents suppressing you, oppressing you, Then as a child, they making you a victim of their superstitions, whether it is childhood or later age. So how one should engage with the past? My parents treated Dalits, Madigas mostly in the villages, as untouchables. I didn't like that. Now I have to disown that life of my parents. You have done, having come a Brahmin family, that was an absolutely inhuman life. So why are the present Brahmins educated in Delhi and Mumbai, are owning Pule time kind of behavior of Brahmins, and they don't want to show it? Now, do you want that to be even now legitimized as a right thing? And why is the film board? Now, what is the use of writing this kind of a book if Shudras don't understand? Now, Pule and Ambedkar several times, regretted to have worked so much, and their own people's response is very weak. But yet, they did not stop. I also did not stop, because my book, Why I'm Not a Hindu, post-Hindu India, faced a backlash. They took to the Supreme Court. Buffalo nationalism was for a long time neglected. My novel, Untouchable God, is not read by anybody. And many film, producers, directors approach writers to make films on that. But a very excellent novel like Untouchable God, nobody asked me to make a film out of it. So there is a control of Brahmin, Banya, Kshatriya forces in the cultural domain and spiritual domain. And the Shudras, upper Shudras, who should have come into that domain and challenge them in the philosophical domain. See, the philosophy of agriculturism that I have talked about here has its roots in Buddha.
Can I just come back to this? It means basically that one needs to acknowledge that the Shudras who are well off, who are in the upper layers of the hierarchy, top of the ladder, are subservient to Brahmins and Brahmanism.
Yeah, they are subservient spiritually, and quite a few of them, if you look at Rayalaseema and Andhra Pradesh, Kamas have Reddis have gone into Christianity even in modern times as a protest. And they led the Catholic Church in both the regions for quite some time, even now. And in the Protestant church, they have not gone much, but it's mostly a Dalit church. Islam got stuck, and no Shudra has gone into it in the modern times. In our own lifetime, we have not seen anybody going there. But then, the largest number who, take for example, Kammas, who had some sort of a philosophical background with a writer like that Shambhu Kavada.
Tripuneni Ramaswamy.
Tripuneni Ramaswamy Chaudhary. Even N.T. Ramarao praised him several times. But after Chandrababu Naidu and the present politicians, they have completely thrown them out. And they entered into Brahminic domain. And after BJP came to power, they're all aligning with RSS, which has a very strategic plan to capture political power, but at the same time control the cultural industry like film, writing, thinkers, vice chancellors, professor appointments, even backdoor appointments into university. Only Brahmin, Banya, Kshatriyas even now. So though Prime Minister calls himself a OBC, but look at the way he filled up the Brahmins, Banyas with the film board. He himself has to appoint them. So this is the direction of RSS BJP. They don't want the Shudras come into their own philosophical, historical control. Now, see, when I wrote the Shudra Rebellion, starting with the farmers' agitation in 2021 against the three farm laws and went back to Harappan civilization, Spade versus book. So even now, the film industry, the book industry, and most of the book publishing companies are headed by Brahmins, even if they are foreign companies. The editors, the CEOs, they locate themselves in Delhi. And the South India, which has progressive history, should have thrown up many publishing houses, and it should have thrown up much better philosophical writings from the Shudra forces after Periyar and after Pule, who aligned himself with the South Indian, Bali Raja and so on. They have given up and they have gone into the fold of RSS, which essentially is handled by Brahmins. Now, what will be the implication once the state is completely under him, year after year and institution after institution is filled with these people with some sort of a politically negotiating language about in order to get votes? I am scared the kind of response that came to Pule's film as a Shudra reform, because remember, Pule did not come from very lower
Yes.
OBC.
Yes.
Pule came from the Kumbis who were like our kapus. And he himself was a businessman. And his father was a flower seller, like our Mudaraja Siya. This is the response to that man's and his wife, who is recognized as, in Telangana as the Savitri Bai's birthday is the Women's Teachers Day. Telangana government has declared here. And more than Maharashtra, we have Pule's statues here.
Yes.
And Savitri Bai's references are more here. But the Western India, the Eastern India, Bengal did not recognize them. Bengal Brahmins, whether left or liberals, they have never recognized Pule, Savitribai and Ambedkar. Who were their great reformers? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar talked about only Brahmin women, right? Like our Vireshilingam Pantulu, right? So Ranade there. So my feeling is, unless the Shudra upper layer responds, if Reddis, Kamas, and Marathas and Jats, Patels were to respond to the Pule's film, that you can't do this without our presence, there cannot be a film board in the country, then BJP government would have been forced to come round.
May I ask a question in this context? Whenever there is change, it's either someone from the class which is marginalized who leads or comes up, or it is someone from the top of the ladder who is altruistic and wants to change society. Now, when we are talking of Reddis, Kamas, Patels, and others who are on top of the Shudra caste ladder, what can possibly draw them into activism?
No, one attempt that I made in this book is that these castes who have got some land resources right from the British, and even a bit of it came from Mughal period onwards, and they became, some of them, Jamindar, Jagirdars. Later on have become urbanized real estate owners and so on. They are not there in the top industrial 100 houses. They are basically in the hands of Brahmins and Baniyas. But they have not owned the Shudra identity
Yes.
to unify themselves. Why are Dalits, in which in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh itself, there are 59 castes. But when it comes to Ambedkar, they're all one.
Yes.
This Dalit identity, as Ambedkar, children, they are all one. He has already become a divine figure among their own This side, this time Ambedkar Jayanti, lot of temples like institutions were built. We have seen them. So whereas the Shudra identity has gone completely erased, and at one stage the upper layer thought Shudra is an humiliating, insulting slave identity. They never thought that it is a respectable identity of producers. From Harappan, builders of Harappan civilization, much before Aryans arrived here, and the Vedas were written here. So they never owned their labor power as a respectable work. Whereas they looked up to either Kshatriya rule or to the Brahmin priestly status. But they could not become priests in the temples, nor they could become kings like respectable with the. Look at Shivaji's fate itself. He was not given any respect by Brahmin priests of his time. So my feeling is lot of discourse by young research scholars from Shudra caste. See, now they have gone into engineering, mostly medical, and from 90s onwards, their destination was America, Europe. Now America is throwing them out. There is no respect. Trump kind of ideology in a way has done good to them. They should come back. They should relocate themselves in social science. See, when you have so much of wealth, one among your family members can spend lifetime in writing books. There is survival base in your families. There is wealth, there is property, and all the time increase property more and more, increase more and more. This is a very typical backward of peasant mentality, what Lenin calls. This is a Shudra mentality which they did not want to own, but got into a slave mentality.
Why then, taking it forward, why do you think it's so important to assert Shudra identity and to build a Shudra rebellion? Is dismantling of the caste system not possible without this? Is it possible?
No, it is not possible, because just let me read the new definition we have given here in the introduction of the book. They were one homogeneous social force that built the foundations of Indian civilization and culture. They means the Shudras. As one race and culture, the pre-Aryan Indians built the animal and agrarian economies, but these contributions did not find a place in the ancient Brahmanic Sanskrit books, the Vedas, Upanishads, Ramayana, Mahabharata. These books encoded only the Aryan war civilization, leaving out the history of the Shudra, Dalit, Adivasi labor power. See, respecting labor power, even the communists have not interpreted the working class, the proletariat idea linking to the labor power. Day to day, Shudra, Dalit, that kind of vocabulary. And production technology thereby. See, there is a production technology that the Shudras have built. Plowshare, spade, and pot making, technology, leather technology. And the whole production is always related to technology, not just merely the industrial technology. Or even tomorrow, artificial intelligence is a kind of technology. There was a technology with us all the time, but they never respected the maker of the technology as engineer. So, condemning them as Shudras and brainless, inferior human beings. See, this is the issue. Now this book wants to tell them that Shudra is a word that includes your heritage, culture of production, humanity, and civilization building and technology building. It is not slavery. The word Shudra was there in India before Aryans came. They only used it like black was there before whites made them slaves as blacks. They captured them, took to Europe, America, but blacks were blacks. So similarly, Shudras were Shudras. Harappa himself was a Shudra. So that owning of your own, see, if I am black, I own my blackness and say I am beautiful. See, this kind of ideological framework and the discourse does not exist in any Reddy house. Their dining tables are not discussion tables. Their dining tables discuss about how to make more money tomorrow, how to invest, how to build new houses somewhere. Now this does not create an environment of human value among themselves, and they treat lower caste exactly like the Brahmins did.
Yes.
See, this is the problem. So if at all they try to own Shudra identity, read books. Nay, doctors should read social science books. Engineers should read social science books. And of late, in US, most of the engineers are great writers now.
Yes. Doctors
Mathematicians.
too. Doctors too.
Doctors too, mathematicians. After all, Bertrand Russell himself was a great mathematician and became a great philosopher. There is no such Reddy, there is no such Patel, there is no such Maratha or Kamma. Now, this poverty of thinking and seeking of wealth, as Gautam Buddha and Pule, even Ambedkar realized that with your death, you do not carry any wealth. What you carry is what you have done, what memories you left. Today they are big. Which Reddy will be big like that? Which Kamma will be big like that? Ambedkar, who came from a begging family almost, untouchable family, is a god now before your generations. Now, which Reddy can become like that unless you become philosopher? However, whatever number of hospitals you build, like LV Prasad Hospital or whatever, it's good. But you are doing that for money, not for humanitarian philosophical service. Business. It does not bring your image to future generation. Take your image to future generation. Therefore, I hope that they will start reading books like this, Pule, Ambedkar's book on Shudra, and restart their life anew, afresh.
Is there any part of India where Shudras, or there is some new effort towards rethinking among Shudras? Any part in India that you are aware of? Kerala?
I don't see. I think again, the philosophical domain at one stage was in Kerala region and Maharashtra. Among Maratha Shudras now, I don't see any visible writer. And then from Tamil Nadu also, they write more and more about Periyar and so on, but there are not many original writers. So somehow I think Telangana, which was very backward at one stage because of the Nizam rule and the Muslim culture, Urdu Telugu conflict, now seems to produce some sort of a creative ideas. And the fact that this environment gave me the impetus to write Why I'm Not a Hindu way back in early 1990s in the context of Mandal and Babri Masjid and so on, and then continuous struggle to write is because of there is an engageable environment here. If I am alone, like sitting a monk,
you will not be able to produce
like sitting a guru in a pita or somewhere. It's not possible. Philosophical writing comes with engaged ideas with the masses, and the masses who creatively contribute to your ideas through their small experiments, through their discourses, through their day-to-day engagements. So that is the reason why I say every farmer is a philosopher. Every labor is a philosopher. And the relationship between seed and soil, seed and water, human beings, between human beings and nature, and man and woman is a philosophical relationship. So, therefore, when you simplify the definition of philosophy, you see, as somebody recently said, that philosophy is in everyday life, not it is in the book.
Then I would like you to speak about, since you're talking about philosophy, China and India. You have spoken, you have written extensively and very interestingly about Chinese agricultural philosophy. And you have also mentioned that there was the same philosophy in India which was not allowed to grow. Would you say that the difference we see today between the growths and the situation in China and India is due to this recognition of agricultural philosophy?
Very much. See, India also had philosophy of agriculturism, and that is where the whole idea of building a technology of plowshare and domesticating very difficult animal like buffalo, and then tilling land in and around Harappan civilization happened. From there to the Aryan arrival and writing of books, what Brahmanism has done is entire philosophy they thought has come from their own migrational memory and the Sanskrit language books, method of discourse, but not from production. So they have taken back the Indian philosophy from agriculturism, production, man and nature relationship, man and woman relationship as equals, to unequal spiritual, and they focused more on the swarga, not the earth. When, for example, Jesus philosophized the whole idea of kingdom of God on earth, that there is nothing like swarga, heaven there, but you have to create equality, good life, and human dignity on this earth so that it can become heaven for you.
Then would you say that the Chinese followed a different path?
Yes, Chinese followed a different path because right from Tao's writings, then Confucius, they evolved a system, and before that, in 7th century, they had written series of texts and propagated about agriculturism as a philosophical school in the schools and colleges. And one king burned down that by getting influenced with the idea of heaven and, like, Indian Brahmanism, but he could not sustain it. Then once Buddhism has traveled from here, which had its own agriculturalism as a philosophical school. For example, why Buddha stopped killing animals en masse in yajnas and yagas and using their animal power for tilling? It is through a philosophy of agriculturism. You use animal power, produce more, grain and green crops, and feed the animal, and you get fed with that grain, so that the society becomes wealthy and healthy and so on. So, whereas Brahmanism did not agree, that kind of a philosophy, when thrown out from here, went to China, they intermingled with their existing rationalist agriculturism with Buddhism. And as a result, even by the time of Mao, Mao, unlike Lenin or Marx, focused agriculturism as a central developmental agency. When he wrote, the Peasant Report, Yunnan Report, and so on, therefrom he gave slogans about the greatness of farmer. So I think agriculturism, even now, is part of their college, university, and school education. That is the reason why they ask their children from grade 6th onwards to go to the field, engage with cutting the crop, seedling, and come back to the school and learn about the practice in the field. We have never had that school education, right? Whether in my childhood or your childhood, we never linked our book to the field. And even now, the new education policy does not want to do it. And whether Reddy, Kama, Kapu, whoever became teacher, they have never understood that teaching, practical teaching is possible with the field and bringing that experiment into the book.
But now with the of a shift in modern day development in India from agriculture to services to the IT industry, will that be sidelining Shudras even more?
No, see, agricultural production is always the base of human survival. See, the service industry, whether it is Reliance malls or any other malls that are bringing vegetables or food or grains or whatever, where are they coming from? Ultimately, they come from the
Farmer.
farms, come from the land. Now, ultimately, Chinese, Japanese are inventing by their own field experiments. See, after all, a farmer to experiment new breed seed should work like a scientist in the field. That's what they are doing. For a small, within a small area, they are producing more. If we don't do that, your malls don't survive. Your high-tech industry doesn't survive. What will they eat? They cannot eat computers, right? They'll have to eat food.
But now fewer and fewer people are producing the food that is necessary to feed people.
No, what is
Yields have
happening
gone
is
up.
the quantity of food per acre production has gone
Gone
up,
up, yes.
and irrigation levels have gone up. So, without very difficult hard labor, people are willing to, now there is a mechanization process. This mechanization can increase, but philosophically, human being cannot live away from agrarian production centrally. Agrarian production as if based on field is the sustainable source of human life for
Yes,
million
yeah.
years to go, or several years till the earth comes to an end. So there is no other way. So that is the foundational philosophy in my view. We are, see, like, Jesus somewhere says that we even Buddha says that we came from the dust and we'll go back
return
to
to
the
the
dust. And this is what Pule's understanding was, that we must look to the people who live with the dust and respect. I keep saying in several meetings also that without mud there is no food. You have to respect mud. You have to love mud. You have to put your hands in it. And to make it your hand again clean to have your food, you wash it. That's the difference. Similarly, without menstrual blood, there is no childbirth. Respect it, but don't treat it as untouchable. That is where the idea of untouchability has deepened into Indian psyche. Women believe in it. Upper caste women believe it. Lower caste believe that their girl children must be kept away from home. When they were menstruating to start with. See, this is the problem of not understanding the role of mud in our life. And that is a perennial philosophical question.
That's interesting. I also wanted to ask you if we have a if we want to challenge the present economic model, which is controlled by Brahmin and Baniya, how would you envisage a Shudra-led economic model?
Well, see, there is no need to throw away all Brahmins from every field. There is no need to Shudras should control everything as they have controlled earlier. What the Shudras need to do is their philosophical, intellectual, cultural regeneration has to strengthen their entire roots. And the Brahmins will come down. See, if the Shudras can produce better films that people watch, the Brahmin film board does not sustain itself at all, because what is its market? So that is what the Dalits have shown already. Ambedkar was not recognized as an intellectual in our own lifetime by the left movement, headed by Brahmins again, nor the liberals, headed by Brahmins again, and nor the university schools, nor the feminist movements. They have not recognized. Dalits themselves forced Ambedkar on others. Today, everybody is quoting him. Rahul Gandhi says Ambedkar is the source of modern democracy. BJP says, RSS says, Brahmin says. So that is what the Dalits have taught to Shudras. And their number is bigger, their wealth is better, their sustainability is better.
That is the Shudras.
Shudras.
Yes.
Dalits don't have that.
Yes.
Even then, they made these forces to realize that you have to accept Ambedkar. Therefore, we run and build biggest, tallest statues for Ambedkar, museums for him. And I was in Secretariat Ambedkar Statue Museum on 14th. There was something, but better museum can be built for both Pule, Savitribai and Ambedkar at the same place by Telangana government. And that is my wish also. So it is not that somebody should be, see, you were born in a Brahmin family, I was born in a shepherd family, but we never interact with that, our background, our caste roots. We interact as intellectually, engaging people.
As human beings.
Yeah, similarly, if the Shudras become conscious and start owning Shudra history, writing about it, see, one book or two or three writers doing this kind of work is not going to change. Things have to be spoken and written repeatedly. By several people. And that new idea has to get into several forms of social life. Street, market, film, social media, regular media, newspapers. Then things will change. So we have seen Telangana agitation, how it captured everything. And therefore, even central government had to come down. So they did something which was an everyday activity. I didn't agree with that, but they did it, right? So I think if only, my thing is the upper layer always, the intellectual who begins the thinking starts engaging with the lower layers. The layers will go down to the masses, and again it will come back.
So, which means you're asking for a certain degree of altruism among the people at the top of the ladder?
Yes.
Certain degree of altruism, and also recognizing their own identity?
Absolutely.
And you are asking that this be practiced in daily life?
They should be entering into a daily life engagement. After all, any new idea, any organization that we all were part of, whether we are eating food, we discuss about it, what to do. Whether we are going to drink water, we discuss about it. Any two people meet, we discuss about our ideas, organizing. Similarly, if the Reddys, Kammas discuss on their dining table about books. About, what is the Shudra book talking? Are we really Shudras or Kshatriyas? Are we really Brahmins? No, the caste identities do not disappear just like that. In Telangana caste census, there is a category in the manual called no caste. Now, how many people registered under that, the data will come later. But they went to the court and asked for no caste. Who registered under that, the data will come once, the government releases the data. But then, who are these people? They want to be identified as no caste. So there is an attempt. My feeling is caste will not disappear like that once you say no caste. If a no caste person registered here as no caste, if he is a Reddy in the form, if he is a Sharma in the form, If he is a Malhotra in the farm, then does caste disappear? So, population in the census or in the surveys, you may be something else. But my feeling is, it is for the rich who can invest their intellectual energy with the leisure available. See, for an intellectual to sit and write, a daily wage person who feeds his children, himself, his wife and husband, they can't spend days and days in writing. It is those who have some source. If I were not to be a professor, if I were not to have my pension to sit and eat and think and write, at the age of 73 or so, I would not have done this kind of work. Even to live, I needed to work, go and sit at the crop or somewhere and so on. So the rich needs to come out of their ignorance, their arrogance, and their identity, lack of identity, and then start owning Shudra identity. It doesn't diminish you. It will definitely make you the ruler of India soon, the intellectual of India soon, the globally recognizable human being soon.
Do we see from your trajectory from why I'm not a Hindu to the Shudra rebellion, do we see a slight change in your thought in the sense why I'm not a Hindu was a defiant uh, outcry against the caste system, against what was done to the marginalized caste all through. Now, as you say, now you're appealing to the rich among the Shudras to take up the gauntlet and fight.
Well, in By I'm Not a Hindu, I defined the Shudra upper layer as Neo-Kshatriyas. Now, at that time, I was thinking that they are still in the process of, becoming Kshatriyas themselves. Were thinking that in the Mandal also they did not want to enlist themselves in OBCs. So that was the process. Then I thought their man-woman relationship was following Brahmanism. There is no Dalitist kind of man-woman relationship or the OBC artisanal community, my own community man-woman relationship. But by now they have realized they cannot become Kshatriyas. They are not there in Delhi. Even in BJP, when Narendra Modi says that he is an OBC, he is part of the Brahmin Baniya Kshatriya network. The OBC is an euphemism for him. So this I have now realized that no. And then I noticed from 2010 onwards, Patel started asking for reservation,
yes.
Marathas asking for reservation, and now Reddys are not opposing 42% recommendation for reservation. They are reconciling to it. They can come into reservation, historically speaking. In Mandal Commission, they are part. So after all, our idea change as society keeps changing, as how castes are responding to the debates. So now I think that Reddys, Kammas, Kapusia, Marathas, Patels, Jats, and so on are part of the Shudras.
Then is the Shudra rebellion or is a prospective Shudra rebellion? Is it a move to dismantle caste or to get Shudras, the upper layer of Shudras, into the top layer?
Well, Pule imagined very well in the 19th century by 1873 when he wrote Gulamgiri, that instead of using every small caste name, if you identify with your larger work, with your production route, Shudra word is a much more unifier than a divider. Unifier of all tillers, all agrarian artisanal forces. Then if you say Reddy, Kamma, Velama, Yadav, Kurma, and so on and so forth. So this identity he understood will unify them. But somehow after Ambedkar came, He wrote the book, but he focused more on the most oppressed untouchables.
Yes.
Scheduled Caste Federation, but he unified in other terminology, scheduled caste, and the word Dalit for unifying them. So I am using the word Shudra like the Dalit for Dalits. If this unifies many of them, bridging the gaps among themselves and interrelationships come in, marriage. Even if a Reddy girl is married to an OBC, they will attack the couple. If that comes down, then there is a gradual process. Caste becomes an identity but not an operative instrument. Identity is not operative, right?
Identity is not operative. Why would you say that?
No, I see, for example, tomorrow, there is a Reddy name. I don't mind Reddy name having without that Reddy casteism.
Okay.
I don't mind a Sharma Brahmin name having without Brahminic casteism. So these are surnames have become, these are family names, these are many names. So castes are also like that. You are identified. So that's the reason why when I put shepherd to my name, I own my occupation historically in English language because that language captures very well the occupational basis. Somebody is a potter, somebody is a tiller. A Reddy can become a tiller, right? So similarly, a Brahmin can become a priest. An engineer can become an engineer. So my feeling is caste does not disappear in form, but it can die in the content. In its very human relationships, in low and high orders, it can disappear. In Bengal, you can see that happening to some extent among three castes: Brahmins, Kayasthas, and Vaidyas. They are called now Bhadralok. See, there are intermarriages, they are all, the same Janeu kind of people, fish eating and so on. But the caste tensions are not that serious as Bhadralok. So therefore, I think we should move towards a history in the next 20, 25 to 30, 50 years that names may remain, but their essence as a casteism should die out. And I think starting with this book, if many scholars come out and write, even till now, after my two books on Shudras also, Phule's, Ambedkar's, no Reddy scholar, Kamma scholar, Patel or anybody wants to write with a Shudra title. There is a fear that we will be condemning ourselves. There is an inferiority complex. That is the problem.
You also often critique Hinduism and the role of Hinduism in upholding caste. Do you see any potential for Shudras to reclaim their heritage culture within Hinduism?
No, see, the question is Hinduism now as a religion is structurally caste based and pure and impure philosophy. Now, the similar situation was there in Christianity as well, pure and impure, and Catholicism and Protestantism battles. But there is a reform over a period of time. Reformers emerged, Martin Luther King, and so on. If Hinduism as a modern owning kind of religion with idol worship, with Vedic mantras, if this transforms into a different kind of spiritual democracy, well, there is every possibility.
What do you define as spiritual democracy?
See, spiritual democracy, I am saying, when you believe in God, the idea of God should be all inclusive. God created all human beings equal, men and women. That is the idea. This idea is not new now. That idea was there even during Harappan civilization, God, the idea of God. Therefore, after the Aryan arrival, the Vedic texts were written, purity and impurity, touchability, untouchability, and then the whole thing slipping into idol worship, multi idols, and multi images. So the name Hinduism is a recent one. It actually was given by a Muslim thinker called Al-Biruni to Sindhu region people. So if, okay, they have owned this name, it doesn't matter. But over a period of time, it becomes spiritually equal. Anybody can become priest. Anybody can become follower.
So, which means you are saying one of the conditions is that anybody can become a priest.
Anybody
And two
can
is anybody
read
can
the
become,
book.
and anybody
Or
can
the,
become a
yeah,
follower.
the book can change from this to that. This problem is not with mere Hinduism. It is there with Islam also. Islam, the conditioning of women there is a very stagnant thing. There is no reform. And therefore, the condition of open laboring life is both for men and women, irrespective of which family what you belong to, is not there. Therefore, Muslim world still struggles to survive and allow political democracies to operate. So unless there is a spiritual democracy in the society, political democracy does not really survive as matured one. It may keep on going like what is happening in India. But certainly we are not a mature democracy.
So you are positing spiritual democracy as one of the preconditions for political democracy.
Yeah.
Full fulfillment of political
Yeah.
democracy.
Political democracy and spiritual democracy make the idea of earth becoming heaven in spiritual language. I don't believe that after death I will go into something and remain there forever. But so long as we live as human beings, this earth should be pleasant. Not that we do not have sadness, sorrow situations, pain and pleasure. So, but then pleasure should be more around us than pain.
Yes. So thank you very much, Professor Kancha Ilaiah. This was a very interesting discussion. As we worked on the book, we worked on these ideas, but you have further developed these ideas while you're speaking here. I want all the readers to think about the serious issues that Professor Kancha Ilaiah has raised. Please also read the book and please engage in discussions with people around you about these issues.
Thank you, Geetha, for having me on this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.